Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and another video in my series of free themed flower pot SVGs to make with a Cricut or other type of digital cutting machine. If you're planning on celebrating Canada Day on the 1st of July, this design is perfect for your celebrations. There are lots of layers in here, all in shades of red and white to make up the beautiful roses, and we've got the Canadian flag in the background. This is perfect for cutting at a fairly large size to add inside a frame, such as this shadow box, but it can also be cut teeny tiny to go on a greetings card too. This size would also make it ideal for scrapbook pages to preserve your Canada Day memories. You can see how small this is compared to that one, but my Cricut still did a perfect job at getting everything cut out. This is a free SVG download, and here's how to find it. You can find the free files to make this project at craftwithsarah.com/free-SVGs, or click the link in the description of this video to go to the tutorial where you can download straight from that page. You'll need to register a free account on my website in order to download any of the designs. The download comes in a zip folder. Before you can get the files into your cutting machine software, you'll need to unzip that folder. Visit craftwithsarah.com/help for instructions on how to do that, as well as a wide range of other tutorials on how to use your Cricut, Silhouette, or Scan and Cut machine. Once you've downloaded and unzipped the folder, open up Cricut Design Space and start a new project. Go into Upload over on the left, and then Upload Image. You can then either click Browse to find the file on your computer, or drag and drop it in. Make sure you choose the unzipped version of the download folder. If you're using a Cricut machine, go into the 01 Cricut version folder. If you're using a Silhouette machine, a Scan and Cut, or another type of cutting machine, head to craftwithsarah.com/help. Choose the option that fits your type of machine, and then there are separate instructions on there on how to use my files with either a Scan and Cut or a Silhouette. But for Cricut, go into 01 Cricut version, and within there is one file that starts SVG-01 in the file name. Drag and drop it in, and this is what it looks like. Don't worry if it looks blurry on this screen, it will be full quality once it's added to your project. Press Continue, and then you don't need to change anything on this screen, just press Upload. Give it a few seconds, and then the image will appear on your canvas. Hide this menu on the left by clicking the arrow. The design comes in at a good size to cut, it's 7 inches tall, but you can resize it larger or smaller if you wish. This design's been specifically created to cut beautifully at a small size, so you can put it down to, I would say, probably around 3.5 inches tall, and it will still cut really nicely. To resize, make the padlock above the width and the height box closed. If it's open, click it to close it. Then you can type either the width or the height, press enter on your keyboard, and the other measurement will change in proportion. If you're planning on adding your design to a shadow box or a card, it's a nice idea to start building up some layers in Design Space so that you know everything's going to fit and look beautiful on your finished project. But of course you don't have to do that, you could just cut it out as is if you prefer. However, to give you some ideas of how you could customize this design, let's take a look at both a shadow box and a greetings card example. Here's a really simple but effective way at framing the design inside of a square shadow box frame. For instructions on how to make mats and layers to go behind your design that will perfectly fit inside your frame, and how to size the flower pot to make sure it will be the perfect fit, head to craftwithsarah.com/help, choose either Cricut, Silhouette, or Scan and Cut, and then there's a separate video on there on how to frame your layered designs in either Cricut Design Space, Silhouette Studio, or Canvas Workspace for Scan and Cut machines. Or you can go a little bit more complicated and build up a scenic background behind the flower pot. That's exactly what I've done here for this greeting card design. The card will measure 5 by 7 inches when it's all cut out, and my flower pot on this one is much smaller. It's only 4.8 and a little bit inches tall, 4.5 inches exactly wide. I used some images and also this text from within Cricut Access to build up the background of my card to give that Canadian vibe of mountains and trees. If you'd like to learn how to make backgrounds like this, check out craftwithsarah.com/classes. This shows all of the premium membership classes available on my website. If you're not already a member, check out craftwithsarah.com/join for information on all of the amazing benefits of joining the membership. The class that I'm talking about here is the one on how to design shadow box backgrounds. You'll learn how to bring images and text together to create backgrounds for your layered designs. Although the class says shadow boxes in the title, it works just the same for greetings cards too. But for now, let's jump back to just seeing the original design to learn how to cut out just the Canada Day flower pot on its own. Here's my Canada Day flower pot as it loaded in at those original 7 inches in height. When you're ready to cut, press Make on the top right. When you're cutting it out, I've used a white and a slight off-white for the layers underneath the roses to help bring out the details. Although it shows grey on the design, I recommend choosing just a slight off-white, as close to white as you can get, with it still looking a little bit different, because after all, the flag that we're sort of emulating the colours of is just white and red. So if you go too dark on the grey, it might not quite look right. Something like a cream or an ivory or even just a really pale grey will work great for these backing layers on the white roses. I'll click Make up here and then it will separate out all the colours. You can change the paper size in the drop down here, and then you can click and drag to move things about to take up less space on the cardstock. Just make sure when you're moving things around that nothing overlaps, otherwise it won't cut out properly. Let's put this on a second sheet, but I reckon I can fit this on the first one. To move things to different sheets, click the 3 little dots that appear when you click on one of the pieces, then press Move Object. Choose another mat, make sure it's one in exactly the same colour, and press Confirm. Then you can click and drag to move about, and look, that fits perfectly. If you end up with any empty sheets, then they'll disappear once you press Continue to connect to your machine. So go ahead and get all of your colours looking exactly as you want it to, then press Continue to connect to the Cricut and follow the on-screen instructions to get everything cut out. Here are all of the pieces of my Canada Day flower pot cut out and ready to stick together. I've laid all the bits on top of each other in the correct order, following the assembly guide that's included in your download folder. That just lets me know that I'm happy with all the colours before I start sticking and that I haven't lost any of the little pieces in between getting them cut out and getting them stuck together. I'll be putting this together with a combination of glue and foam squares. The glue I'm using is Barely Art Glue, but I also like Collal. The reason I like these two glues is that they don't bend or wrinkle the cardstock like other glues can do. To add dimension, use some foam squares. The ones I'm using are from Dot & Dab, but any will do. If yours are big, you may need to cut them smaller with scissors to fit into some of the smaller gaps in the design. As with all my layered designs, we're going to start at the bottom and then work upwards. So I'll move these apart from each other, being careful not to dislodge the backings of the roses because I spent ages trying to get them in the right position. Let's move those, and then we've got these 2 bottom pieces and also the little piece on the flag. These will both be glued on. When you're adding glue to the back of the main white piece, don't add any glue to the little berry area bits that come over the edge because those aren't replicated on the red. The reason that they're kept separate is because I didn't want any bits of red showing through underneath because they're quite thin, especially when they're cut small. So I've just left those as just on the red bits. So glue everywhere else on the back, including down the flagpole, just not on the backs of those little flourishes. Turn it upside down and add the glue. And then this sits right on top, like that. We're also going to glue on the little part in the flag. Try and get it roughly in the middle. There we are. Alright, next up is the rim of the flower pot, and this time it's foam squares. I'll turn it over, get my foam squares. Because this is a big bit of card, I want to make sure that as well as putting my foam squares around the edge, I also want to put some in the middle of the big bit of card. That's because if there is nothing in the middle, there's nothing to support the cardstock and the weight of itself, especially once we've added everything else on top. So it will go downwards, dip downwards like this, rather than being nice and smooth and straight. So I've gone around the edge, but that's not enough. It needs some pieces in the middle too. If you can get some foam squares in the shape of the flagpole, that would be really helpful because that will mean that that stands out and is nice and layered as well. However, if you're making this smaller, that's going to be very, very thin, so it might not be possible. If that's the case, you can add a little bit of glue on the back of the flagpole and carefully push it down onto the one that's already there to get it stuck so it's not flapping around. But I think as this one is quite thick, I can get away with cutting some of my foam squares smaller to go in there. They're really easy to cut with scissors. You can just go straight down, do a few at a time to get them cut up. And then they'll now fit in there. The reason for cutting them is that I don't want any of the foam to show outside of the piece of card because otherwise it will be visible. And I don't want to see any of that foam when it's all stuck on the final design. Alright, I know this is hard to see because it's white on a white background, but now I'm going to peel the tops off of the foam squares to reveal all the stickiness on the other side. Bring the bottom pieces back in and then line it up and then gently drop down. The reason for gently dropping it is that it's not actually stuck yet, so if you needed to move it, if you weren't quite happy with the positioning, it will pick up and move really easily without damaging anything. But I think that's lined up pretty well, so I'll push down to stick. Next up, we'll do the red of the flowers, starting with the solid piece. This is another foam square layer. Line this up and the shape of the flowers will go along and match what's on the white underneath. And then gently drop down. I haven't done a very good job at that, so I'm going to try again. Move it around, see if that's a bit easier. Yeah, I'm happier with that. Then next up is the lighter red to glue on top. Oops, I just got my glue through the hole. That serves me right for not paying attention. No. Apart from you. Glue that on top. And then we've got the 3 white roses to go on top. Starting with the solid colours. These ones are all done with foam squares. Make sure you stick the right rose on the right shape. It will follow the kind of edges that you can see on the red. It might take a little bit of trial and error of moving them round until they match up exactly. But you'll get there. You can also use the assembly guide included in your download folder, or look at how the project is looking on your Design Space screen to see which way round everything goes. That might be helpful on the next bit as well, where we're gluing the detail pieces on top too, to see which order they go in or which direction they go in. The second one, and now the third one. There, all that's left now is to glue the detail pieces on top. Again, make sure you're gluing the right detail onto the right rose. And the next one goes along the bottom like that. And then the third one goes across the middle of the third one, like the middle of that flower, not the middle as in there. I'm sure that made more sense than it did in my head. Then that is all the pieces stuck together, and my flower pot for Canada Day is all finished. All I've got to do now is put it in the frame. Here's how my Canada Day flower pot looks in its frame. It's so bold with those red and white colours, and adding squares in the background draws the eye in to the middle of the flower pot. I like how the subtle colour changes in my two slightly different shades of white help to bring out all of the details, and it's just perfect and ready for Canada Day on the 1st of July. But of course, this design isn't just suitable for shadow boxes, you can make greetings cards too. Here's how the card ended up that I made in Design Space. This is so teeny tiny compared to the one in the frame. It's pretty much just half the size, but it's still cut beautifully, including all of these details on the roses. And then I've got my mountain and tree background that I made in Design Space and the Happy Canada Day, also from Cricut Access. I hope that this is helpful to show you several different uses for the design to help get your creative juices flowing. I hope you enjoyed watching along with me to make this Canada Day flower pot. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and free SVGs. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!